Mangwana ni Malelepo Vukenjani, Krekwas Vanave Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning, the news and current affairs show which remains your portal into Africa's most potent stories. We're going to be joined by Arrie Hougaard as he delivers the South Africa report later in the program. But prior to that, these are some of the top stories we'll be looking at. Senegal rejects AFCON decision as Morocco awarded title after controversial ruling. Staying with AFCON, the AFCON final fallout does raise questions over the credibility of African football. Zimbabwe records over 3,000 human rights violations in February report. Swinging over to Rwanda, teenage pregnancy rises to 8%, and this is amid significant growing concerns. Belgian court approves the trial over the killing of Patrice Lumumba. And African nations are set to borrow $155 billion amid rising fiscal pressures. And looking at Mozambique, the World Bank is exploring options to address the country's debt challenges. DSTV 285, GOTV 25, 1up2.com, Network Media Hub at NTVAFRIKA.MY.NA is where you can watch the show. My name is Ashwin Berry. Top stories shortly.
AITSA is 'n echt Namibiese inisiatief. Ons reis op die hartklop van Afrika en vertel stories van mense en hulle dorpe op verskeie platforms insluitende televisie en sosiale media. Dit is joune, syne, julle en ook almal van hulle aan die ander kant van ons grense sinne. En dit maak AITSA 'n lekker ding. Kyk AITSA maande om 18:30 op NTV, 1up2.com, as ook op Netwerk Media Hub en NTV Afrikaans se YouTube kanale. Volg ons op Facebook of besoek ons webwerf by AITSAfrika.com.
All right, let's get into our top stories. We start with the AFCON drama, as the Senegalese government has called for an independent international investigation into suspected corruption at African football's governing body after it stripped Senegal of the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations title and awarded it to Morocco. Senegal had beaten Morocco 1-0 in January's final, but the Confederation of African Football overturned the result after Senegal's players walked off the pitch in protest following a stoppage time penalty awarded to host Morocco. The players returned after a 17-minute delay, and Brahim Diaz's Panenka penalty was saved before Pape Gueye scored an extra-time winner. Following an appeal by the Moroccan FA, CAF ruled Senegal had forfeited the match, recording a 3-0 result in favor of Morocco. Senegal rejected the decision, calling it erroneous and unjust. Now, moving on to our next story, we talk a little bit more about what this decision means for the perception of AFCON. The decision to strip Senegal of the Africa Cup of Nations title and award it to Morocco has sparked controversy and raised concerns over the credibility of African football. The Confederation of African Football's appeal board had ruled that Senegal's walk-off during a final contravened tournament regulations, awarding Morocco a 3-0 victory. Senegal plans to appeal, prolonging a dispute that has already affected the image of the sport. Alain Giresse described the situation as damaging, while Samir Nasri said the decision discredits CAF. Former Vice President Kwesi Nyatanki warned of serious credibility issues. CAF President Patrice Lumumba acknowledged disappointment over incidents in the final, including players leaving the pitch, fights and interference by ball boys. He pledged to maintain integrity and improve refereeing standards. FIFA President Gianni Infantino condemned the scenes. Now, despite record growth in viewership, the controversy threatens progress, with concerns about governance and decision-making overshadowing the tournament's success and raising doubts about fairness and transparency across African football competitions. Now, at least 105 human rights violations affecting 3,205 victims were recorded across Zimbabwe just in February this year, according to a Zimbabwe Peace Project report. Violations included torture, assault, abductions, enforced disappearances, and restrictions on freedoms of assembly, association, and expression. Socioeconomic rights were also affected through unfair distribution of food aid, hate speech, unjustified arrest, and displacement. Of the victims, 1,651 were women, including 24 with disabilities, and 1,554 were men, including 14 with disabilities. ZANU-PF members accounted for 35.46% of violations, while the Zimbabwe Republic Police contributed 21.12%. Local authorities were responsible for 15.14%, school authorities 11.5%, and traditional leaders 6.37%. Other government officials and suspected state agents accounted for 3.59% each, with the Zimbabwe National Army at 1.20%. Harare, the capital, recorded the highest number of violations, followed by Manicaland and Matabeleland North. The report highlighted systemic involvement of state and politically affiliated actors, raising concerns about accountability and citizens' ability to participate freely in political as well as civic life. Teenage pregnancy in Rwanda has risen from 5% to 8% in 2025, reflecting a growing national challenge. Asia Ufitese became pregnant at 17, for example, forcing her to leave school and delaying her education. She's now pursuing vocational training. Rwanda records over 20,000 underage pregnancies annually. Experts link the rise to school dropouts, maternal health risks, gender inequality, and limited opportunities. Contributing factors include gender-based violence, HIV, limited access to youth-friendly health services, and insufficient sexual health information. Cultural taboos often prevent parents from discussing sexual health, leading adolescents to rely on peers or social media. Pregnancy rates increase sharply with age, from under 1% at 15 to nearly 20% at 19. Stakeholders emphasize family communication, education, and community interventions. The government has lowered the age for independent healthcare access to 15. Services such as counseling and contraceptives are available, but gaps remain. Efforts continue to reduce teenage pregnancy through coordinated action involving families, schools, and institutions. Now, a Belgian court has ruled that former diplomat Etienne Davignon can stand trial over the 1961 killing of Congo's first Prime Minister Patrice Lumumba. Davignon, now 93, is accused of involvement in Lumumba's unlawful detention, transfer, and degrading treatment. He is the only surviving member among 10 Belgians accused in a case brought by Lumumba's family in 2011. Lumumba was executed by firing squad and his body dissolved in acid. Belgium has acknowledged responsibility and apologized to Lumumba's family and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Lumumba's grandson welcomed the ruling, saying Belgium is confronting its history. Lumumba became prime minister after independence in 1960 and was a leading anti-colonial figure. He criticized Belgium during independence celebrations, accusing it of humiliating Congolese people. He was removed in a coup in September 1960 and killed in January 1961. Western powers viewed him with suspicion during the Cold War, and a U.S. Senate inquiry later found that the CIA had already plotted to assassinate Patrice Lumumba. Those have been our top stories on Africa Good Morning. Shortly, we'll be joined by Arrie Hougaard as he takes us through the South Africa report. But prior to that, it's the weather.
Namibia is a land of movement, with waves that never stop reaching forward. Here, adventure is not something we search for. It is something we are born into. In every corner of this country, creativity rises, from artists, from athletes, from dreamers. And when the world comes to explore Namibia, they discover something extraordinary. Because when sport moves people, creativity moves ideas, and tourism moves the world toward us. something powerful happens. A platform where movement meets imagination, where industries connect, where opportunity grows, where Namibia's next chapter begins. Welcome to the Creative Sport Tourism Expo. Exhibit, partner, experience. Creative Sport Tourism.
All right, it's time for us to be joined by Arrie Hougaard as he delivers the South Africa report, first detailing the government's response, particularly the Ministry of Agriculture, to the foot and mouth disease outbreak that is currently ravaging farmlands in South Africa, or farm animals to be more specific. South Africa's post office is in huge, dire financial trouble. Arrie will be talking also about Judge Hlophe potentially joining the Umkhonto weSizwe party, which is led by Jacob Zuma.
In current news in South Africa, we go to the foot and mouth disease first. That is still very much in the news, very much a challenge for South Africa economically and also for millions of farmers across South Africa. So what's happening at the moment is that the Treasury of the government said they're going to free up funds, and that is to help the process. That is to move money between different departments in the government. So there's the Department of Agriculture. They've been exempt from certain provisions. So money can be moved around and they can reallocate funds. So that is good news for the farmers. And there's an urgent response for vaccines needed. And it is 416 million South African rand that could be reallocated to help for vaccines to be acquired. So there's 14 million cattle that needs to be vaccinated in South Africa. And it is 28 million vaccines that is needed for this process over time. So this will be done with no cost to any farmers for the vaccination. So at the moment, President Ramaphosa declared it a national disaster, the foot and mouth disease in South Africa. It's in all 9 provinces. There's been cases reported. Also related to the production of vaccinations, South Africa currently will also produce vaccinations themselves. There's been vaccinations that's been imported from Argentina, but 20,000 vaccinations will be produced weekly, and hopefully it will be up as high as 200,000 in 2027. And South Africa's beef export really struggled in this time. It started in 2025 already, and it is down 26% in 2025. And a lot more now in this year as well. So that's a big challenge. Still the foot and mouth disease, but hopefully vaccinations can be acquired and rolled out quickly. Still in current news, also the post office is in the news, and the possibility to liquidate the post office in South Africa. That is a state entity as well, but it's been struggling financially for a long time. It's had opposition like Postnet in South Africa as well. And if it is liquidated, and that will mean that 5,700 workers will lose their jobs. So organized labor, they wanted to challenge the proposal by Business Rescue. The reality at the moment is that already it is post offices are down to only 650 post offices in all of South Africa. In 2022, it was 1,200 post offices, so many has been closed already. When the Business Rescue started in 2023 for the post office, the debt for the post office was 8.7 billion South African rand, and in the meanwhile there was a Business Rescue from the government from 3.8 billion South African rand, but still it's not enough. And for instance, it is Telkom, the post office rather, that owed Telkom 255 million South African rand. So not a good position at the moment for the post office in South Africa. And then also related to political parties in South Africa, it is political news from the MK party. It is reported from many sources that former Judge John Hlophe, that he will be back as the party parliamentary leader. And that is a big change in the MK party. That's a big change because in November of 2025, he was sacked by the president of the MK party, Jacob Zuma. And the reason for that was the reason for him being fired was that he then fired the party chief whip Colleen Makubela, and former President Jacob Zuma wasn't happy with that as president of the MK party, but it seems like former Judge John Gloppy will be back in Parliament. At the moment, it is the MK party that is the official opposition after the formation of the Government of National Unity, and they hold 14.58% of the national vote, and there's 58 seats in the National Assembly for the MK party. So that is all current news in South Africa at the moment.
All right, in sport, Arrie, take us through the Live Golf Tournament, URC Rugby, and of course, Proteas.
In sports news in South Africa, it is first golf we talk about, then also rugby and some cricket. And the golf first, it's a big event for South Africa. It is the Live Golf Breakaway League, some of the best men's golfers in the world that will be in action in South Africa, and that will be at Steyn City in Johannesburg, and it will start on Thursday. This Thursday will start today, and it will run up till Sunday. And it is a big event, so there's teams. There's also a team component in the Live Golf concept, and there's a South African team. They call it a Southern Guard. It is Louis Oosthuizen, also Charles Swartzel, both of them former major winners, and then also Dean Burmeister and also Brendan Grace. Those are the 4 South African heroes that will be in action at the Live Golf. So it's the first time Live Golf is in South Africa, and also the first time for very high-profile players like Bryson DeChambeau and John Rahm also being in South Africa. So it will start on Thursday. The final round will be on Sunday. The previous years it was just 3 rounds they play. Now they play 4 rounds. So it is a big event at the Steyn City in Johannesburg. Rugby news, United Rugby Championship continues this weekend, and all 4 South African franchises in action this weekend. On Friday, the Bulls play Cardiff at 7 p.m. in Pretoria. Then the Lions, they will play against Edinburgh from Scotland. That is 2:45, the kickoff in Johannesburg. Then also it is the Sharks that will play at home, and they will play against Munster. That is 5 p.m. And the Stormers, they play on Sunday. They play against the Dragons. That is 3 p.m. in Cape Town. So at the moment, the Stormers second on the log on 41 points. It is the Glasgow Warriors on 45, and the Lions, they in the 7th position on 33. Bulls 8th position on 30, and the Sharks 11th on 24. Then also in cricket news, it is South Africa's men's and women's, the Protea men and women team currently play in New Zealand. That is T20 cricket. The South African men have played 2 games already. They will have their 3rd game on Friday, then on Sunday the 4th one, and next week Wednesday the 5th one. The South African women's Proteas team also play on the same days, also T20 cricket against New Zealand, and it is also good preparation for the women's team for the World Cup coming up. So it will be from the 12th of June, it will be the women's T20 World Cup in England, and South Africa play in Group 1, where they will play against Australia, India, Pakistan, Netherlands and Bangladesh. So this is good preparation for South Africa playing against New Zealand. This is sports news in South Africa.
Steyn City Luxury Lifestyle Estate. I mean, just the name, Arrie, makes me way more interested in more than just golf. Tell us about it.
In entertainment news in South Africa, we go to Steyn City, and we talked about Steyn City in the sport, and Steyn City is a 2,000 acres. It's a luxury lifestyle estate in Johannesburg, and that is where the golf is going to be played this week. It is the Live Golf challenge that is going to be played there over 4 days. So what the Steyn City offers is quite a lot, and it is firstly the golf course. It is a Jack Nicklaus designed golf course, so there will be almost 90,000 people that will visit Steyn City over the next 4 days, and that is for Live Golf, and that is mainly because of the strong South African team that will play with Louis Oosthuizen and also Charles Swartzel. We've mentioned that, and Dean Burmeister, and also Brendan Grace, and also big international stars like John Rahm and Bryson DeChambeau. So besides the golf course, it also offers an aquatic center, and there's also a 300-meter lagoon, and that is for family water activities. And there's also cycling and running. There's pathways, 42 kilometers of pathways in the Steyn City area, and lots of restaurants. They also offer restaurants and cafes. That's all at Steyn City in the luxury lifestyle estate, and it is also the Steyn City Hotel that's well known for great restaurants. And obviously you can go for accommodation. The hotel is also brilliant, and it is what's interesting about Steyn City, the whole lifestyle estate is that they emphasizes a car-free community, so you don't need to drive. There's lots of parklands as well, so you can walk around everywhere you go. It's very safe there as well. So economic injection for the city of Johannesburg, and not only for Steyn City, will be almost close to 1 billion South African rand for the Live Golf tournament. So that is entertainment that goes into money that comes in to the economy in South Africa. And so for the golfers, also lots to play for. The total prize money is $30 million US dollars, and the winner will receive, the individual winner will receive 4 million South African rand. So if one of the 4 South Africans win it, it will be 75 million South African rand. Lots of money they play for. So Steyn City offering a lot, and so that is entertainment news in South Africa.
In a world where politicians promise the moon and deliver potholes, where democracy sometimes arrives in camouflage and ballots often look like formalities, one show dares to laugh with Africa, at Africa, and sometimes for Africa. This is Second Take, your weekly dose of political satire with an African soul and a global edge. From coups disguised as press briefings to ministers moonwalking past accountability, we serve the real news with sharper writing. Each week we bring you the TikTok of the week, because sometimes the revolution is vertical, and the heartwarming moment of the week to remind us that not everything is burning. We also sit down with the bold, the brilliant, and the brave, voices that question power, stir thought, and spark laughter. Because when the headlines are wild, the leaders are louder, and the truth is lost in translation, we all need a second take.
This is Generation C, where high school stories come alive. It's youth-led, youth-driven, and all about real voices from real schools. From standout learners and aspiring teachers, to school culture, talent, vibes, and everything that makes each school unique. No scripts, no filters, just authentic moments and big energy. Catch Generation C every Friday at 12 p.m. on DSTV channel 285 and GOTV channel 25. Missed it? No stress. Watch anytime on 1UP2 under My Zone TV. Generation C, made by the youth for the youth. This is where your school gets the spotlight.
In economic news, African nations are expected to borrow $155 billion in long-term commercial debt in 2026, marking a 10% increase from the previous year, according to S&P Global Ratings. The borrowing will help refinance maturing debt and address growing fiscal obligations. Total outstanding sovereign commercial debt is projected to exceed $1.2 trillion, equivalent to about half of economic output. Egypt, South Africa, and Morocco are expected to be the largest issuers. The Iran war may affect borrowing costs and fiscal positions, particularly through disruptions to hydrocarbon shipping routes. Rising fuel prices could strain budgets in countries reliant on imports and subsidies. Despite these risks, favorable global financing conditions may help governments refinance debt at lower costs. The World Bank is working with the government of Mozambique, and this is to address mounting debt challenges as borrowing costs rise and fiscal pressures intensify. A debt sustainability analysis conducted with the International Monetary Fund found Mozambique's debt is not sustainable. The World Bank plans to provide $6 billion in concessional financing over 5 years, alongside potential $4 billion in private investment through its affiliated institutions. Mozambique faces weak growth, climate shocks, and high debt levels, with public debt at 91% of GDP. The country's sovereign spread has exceeded 1,000 basis points, indicating significant distress. Those have been our stories on Africa Good Morning. Thank you for joining us from 7 a.m. on DSTV 285, GOTV 25, 1UP2.com, Network Media Hub, as well as NTV Africa on YouTube and NTVAFRIKA.MY.NA. you can still make sure that you watch this episode and other episodes again on those same channels, 1up2.com, NTVAFRIKA.MY.NA, and NTV Africa on YouTube. That is spelled with a K, the Africa part. From me, Ashwin Berry, and the Africa Good Morning team, we return tomorrow with more top stories from broader Africa and some particular focus on the industries of creativity, sport, and tourism. Sweda Jaganaka.